It's Democrat policies that enable these killers through gun-free zones, through mind-altering psychotropic drugs, and through policies that teach our children that there is no God, there is no right and wrong, and they can do what they want. But yet it's these same Democrats who want you and I to believe that somehow these shootings are our fault. We cannot fall for this, guys. Watch this video and take action. Hey guys, Aaron Dorr here with Georgia Gun Owners. If you're reading our emails and watching our social media feed, you're well aware of the fact that the radical left is trying to use the shooting that took place in an Atlanta hospital about a week and a half ago to demand that Governor Kemp call a special session of the legislature to pass radical gun control. These cries have now reached a fevered pitch. There was a time, maybe, we could ignore all of this. There was a time when we're out of session. They're adjourned for the year. The GOP has control here in Georgia. There is no need to worry about the Democrats screaming for gun control. But folks, I'm going to tell you right now, those days are over. The Republicans in Atlanta are weaker now in their constitution than we have ever seen here at Georgia Gun Owners. And with all of the manufactured outrage that has come in the wake of this shooting and all the rest of the shootings we've seen across America over the last couple of weeks, there is now a growing number of weak Republican moderates who are saying, well, maybe we should do something to deal with the gun violence problem. So guys, this video is going to be really important. Please watch and take action at the end of the video, because every single person who has a soul has a natural revulsion when we see the results of a mass shooting. The shooting in Georgia, killed 1, wounded 4. And like every other person who knows right from wrong, we instinctively recoil in horror when that happens. But what's happening right now is the Democratic policies that enable these mass shootings to take place are being used by these people to enable these shootings to take place, to then use the manufactured outrage that we all feel in the wake of these shootings to convince you and I to sit down and shut up and allow the radical left to advance gun control. I'm going to break that down for you and what I mean. But again, at a 30,000-foot view, the radical left and their policies have enabled these mass shootings to take place. And then after they happen, the left will then sit there with their moral superiority and they'll point their finger at you and me and they'll say, we have to surrender our freedoms because of the actions of a madman who was enabled by their own policies. We will not accept that here at Georgia Gun Owners. So first things first, let's break this down. It is Democratic policies that create gun-free zones like the one where the shooting took place in Atlanta recently. It's their own policies that leave people helpless, but somehow you and I are to blame. Democratic policies have taken God out of our schools and have taken the idea of right versus wrong out of our schools and given our kids a moral bankruptcy, but somehow you and I are to blame. Democratic policies have filled our children with mind-altering psychotropic drugs, which makes them experience violent hallucinations, but somehow you and I are to blame. Democratic policies have weakened and all but destroyed the family unit. Almost half of our kids are raised in single-parent homes these days, which every study in the world tells us harms our children, but somehow you and I are to blame. Democratic policies have allowed Soros-funded prosecutors to destroy our big cities like Atlanta by not prosecuting violent criminals, emboldening criminals across the state and across the country, but somehow you and I are to blame. You see, these policies directly enable mass shootings to take place across this country, and we'll be damned if we're going to sit here at Georgia Gun Owners and allow their policies, which enable these shootings, to then somehow give them the authority to take away our gun rights. So guys, if you agree with me, hit the link below and tell Governor Kemp hell no to a special session of the legislature here in Georgia to pass gun control. See, here's what's at stake right now. There was a time, maybe a long time ago, when the Democrats would make these small agenda items. We want to tweak around the edges when it comes to the Second Amendment, make some common sense reforms. But those days are gone. If you and I surrender an inch, the radical left today is completely unhinged. And I'm not just talking about Stacey Abrams. Stacey's days are in the rearview mirror, we believe. We'll wait and see. The Democrats themselves are devouring her here in Georgia right now. A two-time loser who could not take out Brian Kemp. She's the past. But State Senator Elena Parent, Representative Michelle Au, and many, many others in the radical left are bringing an entire new breed of gun control to the state capitol here in Atlanta. They want to, at a very minimum, pass a statewide registry of every gun owner in the state. They want you in their database. They want to know which Georgians own which firearms and put that into a database and criminalize private sales so they know exactly which homes are armed here in Georgia. They want, at the very minimum, a red flag, statewide red flag gun seizure law. They want the ability for almost anybody to claim that you might be dangerous. And when that claim is made, and a liberal judge hears that claim, and all we have are liberal judges for the most part in the lower courts these days, that liberal judge will order the seizure of your firearms before you've ever been charged, indicted, arrested, or convicted of anything. It bastardizes our due process rights. It shreds them, and our gun rights will be eliminated if you're hit with one of these red flag gun seizures. That's number two. Number three, they want deadly safe storage laws. They want the firearms that we still can have to be locked away 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, unless you're actively target shooting. And if that means when the proverbial glass breaks in your rural Georgia home at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're fumbling in the pitch black trying to find your firearm and unlock it to defend your family, if that means you don't do it in time and you or your loved ones pay the ultimate price, the radical left here in Atlanta, they're fine with that. They're fine with that. That's just on the offensive side. But they also want to repeal the laws that we already have on the books. There are already laws, our bills filed to repeal the constitutional carry law, which we passed just last year. You guys know what this means. It would subject gun owners here in Georgia to having to get a Mother May I card, government permission to carry a firearm for self-defense. Utterly, utterly unconstitutional. But they also want to repeal stand your ground law. And you guys all know what this would mean. If you're in the wrong county, if you're in a blue county and you dare pull and display, let alone use your firearm to stop a violent criminal, if we lose stand your ground law, that means you're going to be able to be charged by a liberal prosecutor because you did not retreat an arbitrary number of steps before you defended yourself. This has happened time and time and time again. Ask Kyle Rittenhouse what this is like. But you'll also be able to be civilly sued by the exact same thug who threatened you in the street. He or his estate, if he's been killed, they'll be able to sue you in civil court for damages. And even if you win in civil court, you lose, because it costs a fortune to survive a civil court attack. So, guys, there is a war on against our gun rights here in Georgia. And many states were experiencing the same thing. But Georgia is unique because we all know that the DNC has named Georgia their top takeover state right now. And I think there's reasons for that. We all hoped, I think deep down, that what happened in 2020 with our runoff elections was an aberration. I think we all hoped that, look, that was a very messy presidential election. Everyone knows there was a war between President Trump and Governor Kemp. Everyone knows there was a war between President Trump and the SOS office. And everyone knows that that was a very messy, ugly situation. And a lot of us, I think, chalked up what happened in the runoff election in 2020. Well, I guess it was January of 21. To that weird dynamic. But then 2022 happened, and Warnock was reelected. And I think for many Georgians, it became clear that the idea that we can sit back and assume that Georgia will stay red forever, that our gun rights are safe forever, that notion died. And now we have to get real with the fact that our state is changing, and it's changing rapidly. And if we do not stand up and fight back right now, we're going to see our gun rights suffer, maybe down the road, but maybe right now, if Governor Kemp yields to the demand for a special session of the General Assembly to advance gun control. The radical left, I said, Senator Parent, Representative Michelle Au, whatever her name is, they're demanding this every single day by social media, online, and press conferences, and these cries are not going away. So if you care about gun rights, you must hit the link below, contact Governor Kemp, and tell him under no circumstances do you allow him to carry out this demand for a special session. And tell your state reps and state senators that they had better hold the line and vote no on gun control, or they will be held accountable in future primary elections across the state. But again, after you've done that, I want to make sure that the first part of this video was not lost on you. We as gun owners have got to get real with the fact that if we simply ignore these mass shootings and keep our head down and hope for the best, we're going to lose our gun rights. There is a cumulative effect that these have on us as gun owners because, again, we all feel horror at the results of a mass shooting. But if you are tempted for a second to think that somehow our freedoms and our gun rights are causing these shootings to take place, and if you were tempted to think even for a second that by surrendering an element of our gun rights, we could make them stop, understand that that is manufactured outrage, and the radical left is hell-bent to browbeat you with that, so you will sit down and say, fine, take some of my freedom. I will not fight for it. If we do that, we damn future generations of Georgians and Americans to live in a society where only criminals and tyrants have firearms. We cannot surrender to these ridiculous assertions, guys. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Stand up, hold the line, hit the petition, join the fight today at joinggo.com, and share our video, guys. Take care, stay safe.